Good morning, everybody. Today, as promised, I'm going to answer the two big questions. One, can you buy a house or property here in Belarus? And two, can you get a residency permit? Hang on, I don't think we're walking much further this way. The rains have hit. And drainage is a bit of a problem in some areas. Anyway, let's get into it. So, first up, can you buy a property here in Belarus? Well, the simple answer is yes. Belarus allows foreign nationals to buy properties. Two caveats on that statement though. One, if you're a foreign citizen like myself, your property title will be issued as a 99-year lease. Now, this is a no-cost lease, of course, and it comes with all the normal property rights. You can sell the property at any time. You can make it part of your estate. So, if you're unfortunate enough to lose your life, it can be bequeathed to whoever you choose. So, effectively, it is a full ownership title. I think it's just semantics to keep some locals happy. That way the government can actually say, hey, we don't actually sell properties to foreigners. But really it's only a technicality. So as long as you're happy with that, the fact that the title of the property will be a lease rather than saying just full title, then you're good to go. The next thing we need to look at is, well, basically, as far as I'm concerned, there's four types of properties. There's apartments, which you are entitled to buy. There's normal suburban houses, which you are entitled to buy. And there are, I guess, farm estates or houses in the country, which you are also entitled to buy. However, there's a fourth category of property, and that is what they call a dacha, which is like a Russian summer house in the country. And a foreign national cannot buy a dacha, but that's no real problem. You probably don't want one of those anyway, because they're not set up for living in winter time. Okay, well, step one is going to be work out what type of property you want to buy. Do you want an apartment? Do you want a suburban home? Or do you want a country house? Before we move on to step two, I want to give you a very rough guide as to what the different types of housing accommodation cost. Your cafeterias, your apartments, depending which city you're in. If you're one of the larger cities, but not in Minsk, you're going to need to spend about 25,000 US or more to get something that's ready to go, something that's livable. If you're in Minsk itself, if you want to be in the outer ring, in other words, that's the end of the metro, you're going to need to spend at least $50,000, I would suspect. If you want to be in the heart of Minsk, right in the middle of the city, I don't think you're going to get away with spending less than $100,000. There's some spectacular apartments in there, but yeah, you'll struggle to spend less than $100,000 if you want to be in the heart of the city. When it comes to suburban housing, once again, it depends if you're in Minsk or one of the secondary cities. But either way, from what I've seen, to get something that's good, you're going to need to spend 100,000 US or more. And that comes to our final and most common option for people just looking for a way to come into Belarus and get a 1-year temporary residency permit. And that is, they buy a country house. A small country house. Obviously there's a huge spectrum of prices, but you can get a good one that will meet the government's criteria for a TRP, for about 12,000 US. And obviously you can spend anywhere up from there, but yeah, for about 12,000 US you can get a country house that would be good enough to qualify for TRP. Your one limitation there, of course, is at that kind of money you're not going to be anywhere near one of the big cities and amenities and services, but it depends on whether that's what you want or not. But it's certainly an option. All the information and pricing I'm giving you are based on my experience. I mean, obviously you need to do your own research. There's no guarantee that the government won't change its policies or introduce more restrictions, but certainly what I'm saying now is correct at the time of filming. Step 2 is find the property. Now, all the normal avenues are available to you. There's websites. I'll put one up on the screen shortly. You can contact a local real estate agent. There are also advocates who will work on your behalf. They'll go and find you the actual property you're looking for. And then fourthly, of course, you can come here yourself and start looking. Step number 3. You're going to need to open a bank account here. Now, if you do not speak fluent Russian, at this point you're going to need an advocate or someone who does speak fluent Russian to come with you. Otherwise, you may find the process a little difficult. In the whole process of buying a property, it was dealing with the bank that was the only and biggest issue for me. Now, the only reason it was an issue was because of the coronavirus, and I couldn't get access to my own funds to transfer them here to my new Belarusian bank account. And then this became an issue when I had a family member transfer me some funds, and they wanted to know where the funds came from, even though I could prove they were mine. The rigmarole, the paperwork, the absolute ridiculous questions they started asking me, and the ridiculous things they wanted certified, which were absolutely irrelevant to the transaction, were just staggering. But you've just got to play the game. So a word of caution there: when you go to transfer funds to Belarus, just have a clear talk with your bank about where the funds are coming from and see if that's going to be an issue. That's a big pointer that'll save you a lot of grief. The reason you have to transfer funds to your Belarusian bank account is most property sales in this country, I think pretty much all property sales in this country, are cash transactions. You have to pay cash on the day. Coming from Australia, that seems completely weird and absurd, but that's how it is. You just have to pay cash, so something to be aware of. Step number 4. So you've got your bank account open, you've got your money in the bank. Now I would suggest you need to negotiate the price with the property seller, and if you come to an agreement, you're probably going to have to leave them a small deposit. I found I think I left $500 and that was more than enough to secure the property until we could arrange to make the full transfer. Next, what are we up to? Step 5, I think, is a very important step, and that is, in Belarus, every citizen must have a registered address, an address at which they reside and sleep. And what you need to do is go to the relevant government department and ensure that the owner of that property has removed himself from the register. You don't want anybody to be registered at that address. If there are still people, either family, even children, if someone is registered as residing at that address, do not proceed with the transaction until that is cleared. Now we come to the step 6, the big day, property settlement. Now, there is no set period between when you pay your deposit and the property settles. That's entirely up to you to negotiate with the property owner, and it can be whatever you like. On the day, you will need to bring all your passport, identification documents, and the cash to pay for the property. You'll meet at the relevant government department. Now, unless you speak fluent Russian and can read and write fluent Russian, you will need a registered and certified translator. These people can usually be hired at the government department, but I would suggest it's a wise person that checks on this before they just turn up on the day. On the day then, with your translator in hand, basically you'll go through the relevant paperwork. It'll take a couple of hours, a couple of signatures. At the relevant time, your translator will say, okay, you can now pay the owner of the property for the property. Once at the same time, he will then hand you the keys to the property. The paperwork will be complete. You will be the property owner, and you can each go on your own way. 7 days after the transaction has been completed, the property title should be ready, and you can return to the relevant office and collect your paper title, and then basically that process is complete. There are some other things you will need to do. You'll need to sort out the gas, the water and the electric with the relevant companies. As with any property, this can be a little bit of a trap again, and you'll definitely need someone who is fluent in Russian to assist you with that process. Out-of-pocket costs for the whole shindig, the whole process, very, very cheap, especially if you come from somewhere like Australia. There's no stamp duty, the fees, the interpreter, everything I had to pay or would not have exceeded $500. It's just staggering. So certainly good value in that respect here. One of the big things I was worried about when I was considering buying a property here was corruption, and how secure is the process, the buying process. And the answer is, well, unlike some of the Eastern Bloc countries, here everything is highly structured and highly regulated. So as long as you follow the process, you will have no issues buying a property here. Welcome to part 2, visiting Belarus. Did you know, before the world turned to shit with the coronavirus and the current political situation, Belarus was actually the 3rd least visited country in all of Europe. That probably hasn't changed actually, but the numbers have just gotten even lower. Now, to visit Belarus, there are 76 countries which the residents of can visit Belarus without a visa for up to 28 days. If there's any Americans watching, I'm sorry, you guys have been knocked off that list and you will now need to get a visa. In terms of anything greater than 28 days, the next option is a 3-month visa, but to get that you need a letter of invitation, so you would need to know somebody here. So unless you can obtain a letter of invitation from a Belarusian national, you can't really obtain the 3-month visa. Then, the big one to discuss, the one that I've got, the 12-month temporary residency permit. Now, that of course I was able to obtain because I bought a property here. Once you've got your property, it's pretty straightforward. You essentially need to get yourself an advocate to work on your behalf, just because the paperwork process is quite complicated, and having someone who knows what they're doing is a great advantage. The process is essentially, once you've got your property you've purchased, you've waited your 7 days, you've got your actual certificate, it's then simply a case of going into the relevant government department, filling in the paperwork. Once again, paperwork. This place loves paperwork, but as I said earlier, if you follow the process correctly, you will have no problems. So you've filled in the relevant paperwork, you've paid your fee for processing, which once again is very reasonable. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was quite nominal. It might have been $100 or even less than that. You then have to wait 14 days for it to be processed. So if you've come here on a 28-day visa-free visit, you're probably going to have to leave the country by the time you've found your property, gone through the purchase process, waited for the 7 days for the certificates, you're probably running out of time. But no big drama. This is done, and I think this is the most common way it's actually done, is to fill out the paperwork, leave the country, wait for it to be processed, then come back. Once your advocate has advised that you've got your TRP, you can probably return to the country. You get a little sticker that goes inside your passport saying when your TRP starts and when it expires. However, the process is not finished. What I suggest you do then is you apply for a second visa, and this is basically a departure or a holiday visa, I'll call it. It enables you to come and go from Belarus. In other words, you can go and visit other countries and come back. The maximum time you'll be allowed to spend in a foreign country is 3 months, but it certainly gives you the ability to go and visit home, or go on a holiday, or escape the cold Belarusian winter, whichever you want to do. There are other options to obtain a TRP. They involved either starting a business or gaining a specific type of employment here in the country. All this information, all these options are listed on the government website anyway. So what I'll do now is I'll put the website up on the screen, and you can go and investigate and check it out yourselves if you want to know more. Simply what I suggest you is this: if anyone's actually interested, is come and visit Belarus on your 28-day visa-free program, provided you're eligible, of course, and see what you think of the country. And clearly the key to success is you need to have an advocate, someone who's going to work for you and just simply get the paperwork right the first time, because if you get it right, you'll have no dramas and you'll get the result you're chasing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon. One last thing, if anyone does want to know more or wants the details of a good advocate who can work for them, just message me below and I'll give you his details.